Snowy winter night. Nice evening for Dharma. Let's just sit quietly for a couple of minutes here. Just gather ourselves. Are you in the habit of doing that during the day? Of just stopping and gathering ourselves, gathering yourself. Just bringing yourself here. There's a saying in the Dzogchen somewhere, without distraction and not grasping. A lot of the meditation that we've been doing, I place a lot of importance and put attention on the breath and developing concentration, developing focus, developing mindfulness. And all of that work is very valuable. That approach is very valuable. But like I say, meditation is it's an experiment, and you're the petri dish. And we all have to experiment within ourselves. We have to do the practice and we have to experiment to see what works for us, what helps us along. So there's various aspects to meditation practice. The idea of doing it right or getting it right, it doesn't really fit because it's not quite like that. So another aspect to the practice is not being distracted and not grasping. So what does that mean? What does that look like? How do we do it? As we begin the meditation, it's good just to settle into yourself for a few minutes. Just to sit quietly and arrive. Is simply to be with your process. We can move our attention through the senses. So we sit, we feel the body. We're aware of the posture. Posture is very, very important, right? We're aware of the posture. Then we can just gently go through the senses, the 5 sense doors. The hearing, the seeing, the smelling, the tasting, the touching. So bringing ourselves into ourselves is bringing ourselves here. And just like the breath, it can always be a touchstone. When we bring ourselves here, when we bring ourselves with the experience of the body, of the five sense doors, we're just being with the actuality of that experience. Sometimes it's called bare attention. Just sitting or standing or walking or lying, whatever you're doing. And just being present with the experience of the body. The breath helps, but we don't need the breath. We've got the entirety of the body. So just that sense of arriving here. And then maybe you notice that the mind is really busy or scattered. Or maybe you're in an irritated mental state. Or maybe your stomach hurts. Whatever that experience is, we don't move away from it. We note it. We gently bring attention to that experience. So, in the context of not being distracted, it means to be with the experience that's arising in front of you. There's the sound of a car horn. Hearing. The distraction only happens when we start to make commentary. Because the commentary, the internal commentary is taking us away. From the hearing, which is what the actual experience is. So, as simple as that sounds, in a very profound way, it's what they mean when they say, taking whatever presents itself as path. In that moment, taking whatever presents itself as your practice. We're not pushing anything away. We're simply being with what comes up. And we're not grasping. Grasping is I want or I don't want. Grabbing hold or pushing away. I don't want this experience. Ooh, I like this experience. We're simply being present with what's taking place. And knowing when the distraction occurs. So, what is that experience? What's that experience like? Really work with it. Really work with that idea. Because in some ways, that's all there is. There's the arising and passing away of experience. There's a commentary on it. There's a view, often. This is happening to me, this is happening to them. All types of views. In a Buddhist context, primarily the view of self, your relationship, the view of two things, subject and object, yourself and other. But by remaining with this simplicity, our view starts to change. Because there's only the experience. The Buddha said, in the hearing, there's only the hearing. In the seeing, there's only the seeing. In the smelling, there's only the smelling. In the tasting, there's only the tasting. And in the touching, there's only the touching. And the truth of that is the experience comes and then the experience goes. This constant change. And this constant change of experience is a profound indicator of emptiness. Because the past is completely gone. There could be no room for the present if the past was still here. Everything is constantly changing, everything is constantly emptying. And by just simply being present, without any agenda, without distraction, which implies viewpoint, judging, without grasping, there is a feeling of freedom that's also there. There's a sensing of the underlying, let's call it clarity in the mind. The experience is there and the experience is gone. So when we sit, we simply stay with the non-distraction and the non-grasping. The meditation on the breath and the other meditations that we do are simply to allow the mind to become quiet enough so we can be present with this. And in our formal practices, we go back and forth between the two. We use the breath meditation, we use the walking meditation, we use sensation meditation, we use various contemplations. But ultimately, we come to this place of non-distraction, of non-doing. And on some level, it's simply letting go of idea of what it is we think we're doing. I remember when I was a child, my mother used to say to me, "What do you think you're doing?" I would respond, "I'm trying to reach the unknowable, Mother." I didn't really say that. Wish I did. So whatever we think we're doing on one level is distraction. And it's hard to get. It's hard to get, but we look in this direction. I'm pointing you this evening in this direction. This is the retreat. This is the retreat that's coming up, Moonlight on the Snow. We'll be exploring this idea more. But it's only difficult for us to get because we live in the world of idea. We live in the world of idea. And the simple exercise that we did at the beginning of the class, just settling in. That's what we do again and again and again. Just settling into the experience. And with this, we have a practice that we can do throughout the day, right? You don't need to be on a cushion. Being with the undistracted. Not following. And of course, what we see when we start to work with this is we see a mind that's constantly doing. That's constantly trying to get it right. That's constantly distracted by idea. So we start to get a sense of that. We start to get a sense of that. That place. And when we do the meditation on the breath, when we do the meditation on the body, we move into that space. And we simply rest. We simply watch. And there's a point where the busy mind and the quiet mind is no different. How could it be? That's the point. That's the point. That's the point we find. We find that point when we're rooted in the non-distraction. We find that point when we're rooted in the non-distraction. I hope that you can get the sense of what I'm talking about. That it's not too far out, but there'll be time at the end of the meditation to ask questions. But in some ways, it's pretty straightforward. Not grasping after, not holding on to, not being distracted, just being with this. And we practice it again and again and again. My mind is busy, I'm agitated, I can't focus. Well, we apply mindfulness. We look at what we're doing. We look at how we're supporting wholesome or unwholesome states. We move towards the quiet, we move towards the wholesome. We develop calm, we develop focus. But that's only to get us into the room. Only to get us in the room. So we settle in to the undistracted, to the non-grasping.